Hello, and welcome to the Survival Guide. Today's topic we'll be discussing is the building blocks of language. What are the building blocks of language? They're made up of phonemes, morphemes, semantics, and grammar. But the first one we're going to be discussing is phonemes. It is the smallest unit of sound, which can provide various meanings. For example, hat versus had, or pin versus bin. As you can notice that these two examples, it's only one letter that changes the whole meaning of the word. For example, hat versus had. As we can tell here, the first two letters remain the same, HA and HA. However, it's the last letter that differs. And the last letter that differs provides two different meanings to both of those words. So that is what the phoneme is. A morpheme. The smallest grammatical unit. It is a word or part of a word. It cannot be changed unless you change its name. Regardless of the environment, its meaning remains the same. For example, when you add S to the end of the word cat, both of them are morphemes. But however, once you add that second morpheme, the S, we can now imply a second meaning to the word. So when we add S to the end of cats, we can now imply that there is more than one cat. Another example of a morpheme is a man or the word walked. So these two words cannot be divided into smaller units. What are semantics? Semantics are concerned with the meaning of words. They are used in language to produce a response through the use of words or dual meanings. For example, a toy block has multiple meanings, such as block, cube, and toy. Another type of example is dough, which can mean duh. And the last type of building block we'll be concerned about is grammar. It is structural rules for creating sentences which have meaning. For example, the cat is black. And grammar structure follows according to subject, verb, and object. Now, let's talk about the different stages of language development. The stages of language development, there are only three, but today we'll be only talking about the pre-verbal period for language development. So the three stages are the pre-verbal stage, which takes place between 0 to 1 years old. The first word stage takes place between 1 to 1.5 years old. And the first sentences stage takes place about 1.5 years and beyond that. Now, we'll focus on the main points of the pre-verbal period. The pre-verbal period. This is where children will communicate by gestures and sounds. This will decrease over time as language becomes the primary source of communication. From birth, children will cry to indicate stress. Children under 1 month can distinguish between different phonemes. After 11 months, they cannot distinguish the different phonemes. Word boundaries are distinguished using syllables that tend to occur frequently together. They also distinguish word boundaries based on pitch, stressed monosyllables, and rhythm. For example, the cat is drinking is an example of what you have observed above, using the syllables that tend to occur together, the pitch, and the stressed monosyllables. The motor language skills, by using the mouth and the tongue movement for language production, are a challenge that must be overcome. During the first month, cooing is observed, which can help with pronunciation later. An example of cooing is when babies say ooh or ah. Babbling, a string of constant vowel words, happens around 4 to 6 months. And for example, a babbling is the words baba, mama, nana, and dada. And the last form of the preverbal period is pseudo speech, which can help them practice pronouncing words, such as mat, to indicate math. In summary, sound production and the preverbal period. The types of sounds that occur during this period are crying, cooing, babbling, and pseudo speech. When it happens, so crying usually occurs when they are born. However, cooing starts about 1 month, babbling starts about 6 months, and pseudo speech starts around 1 year. In summary, the building blocks of speech were determined. We also discussed the 3 stages of language development. And we also discussed the main attributes to the preverbal stage. And finally, we discussed the sound production in the preverbal stage. That is it for the first part of preverbal period for language development. I hope this helped and have a great day.